to what extent do traditional Russian espionage operations play out in the United States? I know there are sensitivities there, but are Russians executing traditional spy operations here in the United States?
So putting aside things like Russian cyber activity and things like that, right? So first, I would say the Russian traditional counterintelligence threat continues to loom large. I will say that over the last several years, the United States has made, I think, very positive, significant strides in reducing the size of the Russian intelligence officer footprint in the United States, kicking them out, in effect. And increasingly, we're seeing some of our foreign partners do much the same in their countries, especially in the wake of both the Skripal attack, the poisoning in the UK, but also, obviously, their unconscionable invasion of Ukraine. But the Russian intelligence footprint, and by that I mean intelligence officers, is still way too big in the United States. And it's something that we're constantly bumping up against and trying to block and prevent and disrupt in every way we can. The Russians also use not just traditional intelligence officers, but use cutouts. For example, we just had a case recently where they had enlisted a Mexican citizen who was here in the United States to spy for them here in the United States. So we are certainly mindful of the fact that they have a disproportionately large intelligence footprint here in the United States. Those people are here to advance Russia's interests, and if anybody needs a reminder of what Russia's interests are, you could just look at what's going on in Ukraine. And so we never lose sight of the fact that these are the same people that are involved in unconscionable activity and aggression in Ukraine, and the same kind of people who conducted the attack against Skripal, the gas nerve agent in the UK. So we know who we're up against.
Right. That was a horrific attack, to be sure.
At the moment, what AI is really doing is enabling less sophisticated bad guys to be more successful and effective than they otherwise would have. Think of it like, you're all familiar with, you get the phishing email that's, you can tell was written by somebody for whom English is not a first language, and you kind of know, I shouldn't fall for this. Well, AI is already quickly enabling a lot of those people to sound a lot more credible and a lot more like fluent natural English speakers. So it's going to get harder. What I'm really worried about is a few years from now, we're going to see the most sophisticated actors be able to up their game using AI. AI is not quite yet at the point where the most sophisticated adversaries, like they're not using ChatGPT to do their stuff. Like they're already up here, but you give it a few more years and there's going to be things that'll enable them to take it to a whole nother level. I mentioned the Chinese and the theft of AI. They have a bigger hacking program than that of every major nation combined. They have a massive malign foreign influence campaign, and they've stolen more of Americans' personally identifiable information than every nation combined. If you put all that together with AI, it's going to enable their hacking and their foreign influence campaigns and so forth to become exponentially more effective, because it allows them to essentially train the machine learning models to be more effective. So you could have a snowballing effect of what's already a very significant threat. So yes, we're very excited about how we can use AI in offense, but at the moment, we're primarily focused on how we can help protect people from the ways in which AI is going to be misused and already is being misused.
Oh, great points. I mean, it's double-edged, right?
Yeah.
That's the issue.
I mean, every new technology, I have the same reaction, and AI is no exception. My first reaction is, wow, we can do that? And then my second reaction is, oh no, you mean they can do that? And of course, we're we try very hard and work very hard and are very proud of the fact that we're constrained by the rule of law in our use of these technologies. The bad guys, they throw that stuff out the window, so they're able to go after use these technologies with what they might view as a competitive advantage.
Yeah, no boundaries for them.
We have had, and part of the reason there's such a debate is we, the FBI, have had compliance failures over the years. And I make no bones about that. I take that very seriously, and it's something that's not acceptable, and it's something that we've taken great pains in the last couple of years to address. We've put in place extensive reforms, and I'm talking about massive changes to training, policies and procedures, new oversight requirements and pre-approvals. I created a whole new Office of Internal Audit focused just on FISA compliance. And it's working. Mm-hmm. It's working. And I say that not just because you can ask, don't just take my word for it. You can look at the various outside reviews that have been done. In the last little bit, people have started to have reports that reflect our activity since all those reforms were put in place. And those reports show, for example, the FISA court recently found like 99 or 98% compliance and talked about how the reforms that I just described were starting to really work. DOJ had a report, the last couple, I think, have shown like 98, 99% compliance. ODNI, the Office of Director of National Intelligence, their report showed a huge, like 90-something% drop in querying of U.S. persons. This Office of Internal Audit that I talked about created showed an increase to like 96% compliance since we put all these reforms in place. But part of the reason I say all that is because one of the challenges we've encountered, we FBI have encountered, is that an awful lot of the news reporting and certainly an awful lot of the punditry around the news reporting about the FBI's compliance failures has been about reports that cover activity before all those reforms. So even though they may have come out, in the last year, almost without exception, all these negative reports have been about activity that predate all those reforms. Only now, in the last several weeks or so, are we starting to get reports that capture after all those reforms. And that's important because I want people to know that we take compliance very seriously. We want to do everything we can to ensure that we are careful stewards of this authority. But for heaven's sakes, we should not throw the baby out with the bathwater, because this is a tool that we use to keep Americans safe from very serious foreign threats. We have, if you think about almost every investigation we conduct and almost everything we do, there's three things in common. There's the evidence, the documentary evidence, which is the emails, the documents, whatever it happens to be. There's the human information, the witnesses, the sources, and there's the money. The stuff, the people, the money. Well, the stuff is getting harder and harder to lawfully access because of the way companies are designing encryption, which is basically no matter how good your legal process is, they're basically hiding it. And so that is going to make that a challenge. The people in today's world of the digital breadcrumbs we all leave, combine that with things like facial recognition, AI, and so forth, it gets harder and harder to protect human sources from being compromised. And then the money, obviously more and more cryptocurrency is the way bad guys are going, and it gets harder to follow the money. So if we're not careful, we're going to lose the stuff, the people, and the money, in which case we are going to run out of things to do. So that is it. So innovation is absolutely essential to deal with all of those issues. I mentioned AI. Obviously, it's a topic that everybody's talking about all the time these days. We're very excited about some of the things that AI can do, but we're also very mindful of the ways in which AI is enhancing the bad guy's ability to be effective. And so we are focused on innovation there. I'm very proud of one of our guys recently. We've created to further foster innovation, we've created a formal patent program. We have one of our guys just got a patent on something he came up with to basically help detect deep fakes. which is one of the things that AI will enable to
Yep.
be more and more effective. So innovation, partnerships. I've talked a lot about partnerships here this evening, both old and new, partnerships with state and local law enforcement, intelligence community, foreign partners, making those partnerships more and more effective, always looking for what I would like to say is 2 + 2 to make 5. In other words, how do we get the FBI's 2 with some other partners 2 and have it equal 5 or 6 or 7 to achieve synergies to deal with all these threats. But then non-traditional partners, the private sector, academia, certainly the cyber threat. If you look at our exposure as a country, something like 80% of our critical infrastructure is in the hands of the private sector. It's our critical infrastructure the bad guys are after. Our innovation, same thing, probably higher than 80%. Our personally identifiable information, it's in the hands of the private sector.
Okay.
So if we're going to be effective in protecting America, we have to work more and more closely with the private sector. And so I envision a world in which, over the period that we're in, the cohesion and the partnership between the FBI and the business community and academic community is going to just continue to become more and more robust as we help those parts of our society become better, more resilient against some of these threats.